Today, I want to talk about how marketplaces monetize.
This is a fascinating topic, even for people that are not part of a marketplace, because really, when you think about marketplaces, like a commission incentive is essentially a marketplace take rate model. Your real estate transaction is a marketplace take rate. Like once you start thinking in terms of marketplaces, it applies to just about every business, including all SaaS products.
It's also the oldest business model known to man. There were marketplaces on the plains of Mesopotamia, like for grain
Worth
traders.
it?
Yeah, there were. I was there, Kyle.
Was this in the Code of Hammurabi?
There has always been a middleman, and that's essentially what it is. We all operate in a business where there is some middleman element.
Let's sort of level set for listeners, because I think that people might think of these marketplace take rates as like there is a transaction fee that's just kind of standard. Like people know of Apple, the App Store takes a 30% take rate. Like that's very well known. Apps don't love it, but everyone's had to play ball until recently. I think these actually vary quite a bit across companies.
Kyle, you're completely right. People think that these are just arbitrary percents that are thrown out there, and they're not. And so I think there are three defining characteristics that I've identified that impact what you can, or rather should charge. And I say should because you shouldn't take all the money off the table, right? It actually alienates your customers, your suppliers, and it's not great for long-term customer value. But the formula that I've seen is that your take rate is basically a function of the purchase frequency, the purchase size, and the amount of labor and effort that the platform puts into making sure that transaction is a success.
Walk me through what you mean by that equation. So like purchase frequency, is it like more frequent purchases? Is that higher take rate, like lower transaction sizes? Like what's the math on that equation?
Yeah. So if you think about something like Uber, that's a pretty frequent purchase, or DoorDash. These happen pretty habitually. But then you compare it to buying a house and you may go through Zillow. That's probably only going to happen maybe once every 10 years or something like that. Then you also have to take into consideration the size of the purchase. If you're ordering a $40 dinner on Uber, you're probably okay paying a 20% take rate on that because you're paying for convenience. The percentage sounds high, but the actual dollars are pretty small relative to your purchasing power. But if you think about the house on Zillow, paying 2% for a house versus 3% of a house, that is a huge deal. You're thinking about the actual dollar denominated weight of that.
See, I have a very different equation for take rates in my head. And maybe it's that you're more of the CFO and I'm the growth person, but I think of it as a balance of power question, right? So these marketplaces, there's usually multiple sides of the market, at least two, one side being supply and one side being demand. And if the marketplace owns demand, they have a lot of power over the take rate on the suppliers, right? And so for Uber, it's going to be really hard for them to get riders on their own. Like they don't have their own marketing. That would be really expensive to set up. And so if Uber owns the demand, they could charge whatever they want as long as, it's enough money for the driver to make profit on it. But back in the day, they didn't have enough drivers, right? And so they needed to incentivize drivers with a lower take rate until they had enough on the platform that they had that right balance of power. And so I think you're always kind of looking at those supply and demand dynamics. And I think that's hugely influential for what take rate you can get away with.
Take rate is essentially a measure of who wears the pants in the relationship. It's who has the most power. That's what it is, but it's not the quantitative factors that go into it, right? I think of that more as the output than the input.
Don't tell your sales rep that. What is he getting 20% of your transaction?
100%, 1,000%.